Hello and welcome to We Mean Business. It's a week that saw India's first ultra mega power project, Tata Power's Mundra plant, getting fully operationalized, and also indications that the second set of UMPPs could finally be awarded as well after a severe delay. And while this might be good news, let's not forget the fact that the Tatas are making an estimated loss of over 500 crore rupees every year in running the Mundra plant, and there are no clear headways yet in terms of a change in policy in dealing with the UMPP mess. That's largely a result of tariffs becoming unviable for developers due to sovereign law changes in Indonesia that made coal more expensive. Then there are also the age-old problems of land and environmental clearances and delays in government decision-making that are further pushing back the government's dream of power for all, for which 16 of these UMPPs were in the first place envisioned. On the show today, we debate whether the ultra mega power project experiment has been a gross failure. Joining me on the show, Suresh Prabhu, former Minister of Power during the NDA regime. Kameswara Rao, leader energy and mining at PricewaterhouseCoopers, joins in from Hyderabad. Narendra Taneja, energy expert, and Harshvardhan Dole, VP Institutional Equities at India Infoline. Later on the show, we'll also get you a view from Mr. Ravi Uppal, MD and CEO of Jindal Steel and Power, whom I spoke to earlier in the day. I want to begin the show with Mr. Prabhu. Sir, have the UMPPs been a failed experiment? Simple question.
You know, this was a flawed policy because any power project that you build up, there is always a variable cost and then there's a fixed cost. The fixed cost is the form of equipments, land and building that you build, but also the fuel cost, which is a pass-through, has to be variable, and therefore it should be normally a pass-through. The government bidded it on the basis that fuel cost will remain permanent on the premise that you acquire a mine, therefore you have a right to an asset, therefore the fuel cost can always remain at its same level. But as it happened, in fact, that's one of the point that I was saying even at that time, that a variable will never become fixed. So the variability of a situation should also be factored in while deciding a policy. Unfortunately, that plea was not heard, and now what we are in a situation in which there is the first, in fact I must congratulate the Tatas for putting up this power plant, because others have not been able to do what Tatas have successfully been able to put it on stream, and it's already synchronized. So what is important is now, if we do not allow a pass-through in a manner that government is contemplating. See, the government has already said that 20 new mines and the old mines with the license have been given, the government of India is saying that we want 26% of profit sharing in that. And they are saying that why you should be worried, because that 26% which is doing a retrospective effect, changing the terms on which the mine license were given, will be able to pass through. So what is the problem? If that is the case, then in this particular case what has happened is Indonesia, South Africa,
Let's take that, sir, in fact, to Mr. Kameswara Rao for an independent
they are the countries which export 98% of coal, have all changed the terms, and therefore, you know, the coal has become very expensive.
Right.
So
let's take that to Mr. Kameswara Rao. Mr. Rao, would you agree that, in fact, the policy itself was flawed to begin with, because this was an idea that was launched with much fanfare. It was touted to be a game changer in the way the power sector would change, but it's clearly been a failure, not entirely like Mr. Prabhu said because of the government, but also because of sovereign law changes in countries like Indonesia.
I think the policy and the design have been tested earlier, and in my opinion are reasonably sound. I think it was a good policy, and I think there were sufficient provisions in that to permit all kind of variability that any investor would want. For example, without any pass-through of fuel cost or with 100% pass-through of fuel cost, the choice was there.
Right.
What has happened though are two things. One is international events with lot of resource nationalism, not just in coal but in various other resource sectors we have seen, that was not anticipated in the first place. Second thing, investors have discovered that the project preparedness, which was supposed to be actually 100% in these things, has not been fully there. I think there's a lesson for all of us is that we may have the best of the design, but we still need to move with the times.
Mr. Dole, so who's to blame? Is it is it developers as well who didn't, like Mr. Rao said, foresee or didn't entirely prepare for the project, because they were the ones who really didn't look at the cost implications, who bid very, very aggressively to bag these projects? Are they also to take a big part of the blame?
Well, when a developer is expected to quote tariff for next 25 years, he is certainly expected to build the conditions, risks such as change in law, both domestically as well as overseas. I think clearly the developers such as Tata Power, or to that extent even the Reliance Power, which got awarded the Krishnapatnam UMPP, their tariffs assume that the such risks were discounted at a far lower rate. And now, given the fact that there has been change in law at the Indonesian side, these risks are to the fore now. But what is to be learned from here on is generation is a business whereby the developer cannot take fuel price risk on its books. Fundamentally, it's a business whereby you convert any form of resource into energy and you essentially sell it to the end level consumers. And in a long-term PPA, which is like 25 years, of course, variability in the fuel cost will certainly affect the cash flows if the risk is not priced in adequately. I think even if this lesson is learned by both the policymakers as well as the developers, I think things from here on will pretty much smoothen out.